guys, my name is Ornella Hernandez with Web3 TV. Today, I'm covering the Cardano Summit in Dubai, and joining me here, we have Álvaro from the UN Refugee Agency, so the UNHCR. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Ornella. Thank you for having me here.
Yes, I wanted to learn a little bit more about UNHCR for Switzerland and its relationship with the Cardano Foundation and Ecosystem. I know you guys were the Impact Challenge winners. So if you could tell me a little bit more about that relationship, please.
Yes, sure. Actually, so we are Switzerland for UNHCR, which is the national partner for the UN Refugee Agency. So as the name says it, we're actually in charge of raising awareness and mobilizing critical resources, so aka fundraising in the Swiss territory. And with this in mind, obviously, Switzerland is a bit like Dubai for this, meaning like we're a big blockchain hub. So as a head of innovation, my work focused a lot on blockchain. And we were invited at the last Cardano Summit, which took place in Lausanne, in Switzerland. And that's where actually we were like the recipient of the Impact Challenge. So that means that during a year, we were working on a specific impact project for refugees.
Okay, so let's get into all that. Let's break it down a bit. First off, why Cardano? Why work with Cardano?
That's a really good question, and I have to say that Cardano are based in Switzerland, so that made it quite easier for us to reach out to them and them to reach out to us.
Okay.
Because in a way, as you know, blockchain is a very new technology, and perception is key, as is the perception of refugees outside. So that's why I find it quite similar in my job here. We like changing the narrative about refugees, but it's also about how do we work with the blockchain by changing the narrative, a bit on, the perception of blockchain within the humanitarian sector, but also show the blockchain industry that humanitarians could benefit from blockchain.
So how is the UN leveraging blockchain technology to improve the humanitarian crises and refugee crises in the world?
All right, so as a national partner, look at it a little bit like a kind of a spin-off. So we're kind of a sandbox, which
spin-off of the UN.
Of UNHCR, yeah, exactly, for the UN Refugee Agency, which allows us in a way to experiment a bit more and faster, things that later on could be scaled up to the entire organization. So that made it quite easy for us. That and the fact that we're actually in charge of Switzerland, so Switzerland being a blockchain hub. So with this in mind, we started really speaking to foundations based in Switzerland. And the Cardano Foundation came up and saw us, and we ended up looking, seeing how we could set up this charity stake pool together.
It's a charity. What do you say, charity?
A charity stake pool.
Stake pool. Okay.
Instead of staking on a regular stake pool, in this case, when you stake on our pool, all the rewards go to refugees, to UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency. The split is 80% on unrestricted, meaning unearmarked projects, and that helps us fund many times protracted, forgotten crises that don't get any funding because they're not in the media, and 20% in the innovation fund, so promoting blockchain solutions for humanitarian sector.
Okay, can you name some of those crises that go unnamed?
All right, so we had we identified 12 underfunded countries operations last year, and you have among them you have Lebanon, Iraq, Sudan, and many of those. And it's still the first year of this Impact Challenge, so this year was really about setting up the project, validating it, and really creating a proof of concept to further scaling up. So results, we already raised a fair amount of funds that will be used for these countries.
Can you share how much?
I don't have the latest number, but we're talking several tens of thousands of dollars. And at the end of the year, these will be transferred in this 80-20 split. But beyond how much we raised, the most important thing is how did we work with the Cardano community to actually create a proof of concept. So we now know that it works. It's a viable concept that could provide sustainable funding for operations. And that's why now we're actually looking at phase 2, which is with this validated concept, let's scale it up to bigger institutions, bigger digital asset holders to now have an impact on numbers.
Okay, so what does the process look like? Is it based on donations from people that go to the UNHCR, and then you guys like track those donations and make it get to the refugees, or how does it look like?
That's not exactly it. I would say that integrating traceability is a very good use case of blockchain for donations. But in this case, it's actually doing something a bit different, and telling them that instead of donating, and we know we're in a bear market, so keep your assets. Don't give them to us. Don't donate to us. But you can stake them in our pool. They're still yours. But the rewards that will be, the tokens that will be rewarded on that pool will be donated to UNHCR. So you don't lose your assets. You're not donating them, but you pretty much, we're making them work for our cause.
Right, okay. And what assets specifically are we talking about?
ADAs
ADA
in this case.
Just ADA.
Yes, just
okay.
ADA in this
okay,
case.
I see. All right. Okay, very interesting. And then are there any crises or countries or populations that you are particularly concerned about right now that UNHCR is helping?
Well, from my background, I actually have myself, like my family has a refugee background.
Oh.
I'm half Spanish, but they're Spaniards who fled to Venezuela during the Spanish Civil War. So obviously, on a personal level, I'm very, very worried about obviously the situation in Venezuela, the forcibly displaced people there.
That's where my family's from.
Okay. So you know what's
I'm
going on.
familiar with,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. So obviously it's something that you keep track a bit more than the rest, and it's normal. I mean, it's your own roots. But there are so many conflicts around the world, so many crises, and I think that beyond being a refugee crisis, we have like a political crisis. So it's really something that the entire humanity needs to find a solution for, and we're just trying to do our bits and find solution. And I like to sometimes add, usually I add this as well, is like when people tell me, but setting up like a stake pool for refugees, that's cool, but why? I mean, how did you come up with the idea?
But how do you get people to, well, refugees aren't dealing with the tech at all, right?
No.
Okay.
No, it's really the fundraising.
Oh, okay, the fundraising aspect. Okay, that makes sense. And then going back to Venezuela, there's a lot of use cases there because of the devaluation of the Bolivar and the inflation. And so a lot of my family members included have turned to crypto and to blockchain tools to live their lives, basically.
Yes, I'm aware of that. And that's why I was saying that, and it's the same situation for the refugee crisis. I mean, like the refugees, the cause around the world in general, is like given the acceleration and the increase in the amount of forcibly displaced people, that actually we got the latest number last week. We're talking about 114 million people displaced, forcibly displaced all over the world, which is a country like, it's like the Egypt as a population, or Philippines, more or less. Okay. Just imagine that country entirely forcibly displaced. That's the population today that is forcibly displaced. We cannot, therefore, with these numbers, it's just so, overwhelming and difficult to grasp. We can't afford not to try everything that we can, alternative ways of funding operations, and trying to find ways to help support these populations.
All right. Another amazing use case for blockchain tech.
Yes, definitely. I hope let's continue and see where it brings us.
Yes, please keep me updated on your efforts.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Álvaro.
Thank you, Ornella.